Is India really a monetizable mapping market after all?
Oh, yeah. After all, how come we are earning 500 crore of revenue last year if it was not monetizable? Monetizing doesn't mean only through that app which consumers use for navigation. Actually, as a matter of fact, Government of India believes that multiple lakh crores of business will happen in the geospatial area.
Are you lobbying the government to have it free-loaded in all Indian phones?
Yeah, yesterday only Bharat Hathi has happened. We have been lobbying for a while. We said, please, even as a matter of fact, in Economic Times, it came out where I said, if Government of India can give money under PLI scheme to the handset manufacturers, why should Government of India tell them? And not just Mappls app. I'm saying any app that they preload at the behest of the Google, competing app of Indian made should be also preloading. So we are doing our part. When it will happen, I don't know. But when that pin is related to the physical address, which I call it as postal address, then that's where the beauty lies. And that didn't happen overnight, the postal address. That's what the work started in 97, collecting the address.
Each address is a separate 6-character pin.
No, each address has a 6-character pin.
Each address is
So first I had to collect the address. It was back in 97, 98. I started that marathon thing with my team of people on the road, covered every building and jotted down their address. That address is accumulated into millions and millions. Making maps was against the policy of the Government of India from British time. So when we started, we checked that out and we found out that yes, it's against the policy of the Government of India. 2017-18 was a different time frame. I can talk about that separately, about the kind of regulatory hassles or kind of issues we got involved in. But this is how we solved the problem at that point of time.
Today on CXO Connect, we are speaking with the man behind India's digital map ecosystem. Rakesh Verma, co-founder and chairman of MapmyIndia and Mappls, brought the idea of indigenous mapping to India nearly 30 years ago, a vision that now powers millions of daily journeys. Mr. Verma, welcome to CXO Connect. So good to have you here.
Thank you.
You founded MapmyIndia in 1995, and you were telling me that's almost 30 years to the date. At that time, when India didn't have a digital environment, forget for maps, just as a digital environment, I think we didn't have an infrastructure and an ecosystem. What gave you the conviction to build this, something that I think was ahead of its times and the country wasn't ready for at that point in time?
You used a very nice word, ahead of the times. People called us crazy. One, we came back from the US at a time when India was going through its own economic crisis. And the second is, what is this digital map? To tell you the real thing, the conviction came that every data will have a location component. Location means digital map. How did that conviction come is a long story. But when that conviction came, we said, well, if every data, rather I made it talk in public that 80% of any data will have a location component. Today, nobody denies it. Rather, I find people quoting it, saying the same thing. How did that come into mind at that point of time? I'm not talking about digital or non-digital. That any data now, somehow that was, I will say, sometimes you want to do something. And in our case, when we came back with 2 little kids and wife, we said that we want to do something different for India. And what could have been something different, which others are not doing it. And we believe in it. So this conviction of location being part of any data made us create the digital map. Because without the digital map, how could we have found that XY coordinate of the location?
you were talking about coming back to the US with your wife and two children. You had returned from the US with a background in management, and you were trained as an engineer. So, uh, and you told me that you were working in the Bank of India before you went to the US for your MBA. So, with engineering, management, finance, this kind of a background, and then you spent years literally bootstrapping a deep tech company, right? Doesn't seem to gel very well in my head. I don't know how that came together. Would love to hear how that came together, and also how much of, let's say, Map My India's culture stems from those early choices.
The first one is an easy one. I didn't do it alone. It was with my wife, who had graduated from IIT Roorkee in engineering. She did her master's in the US in computer science and operations research. She had worked for IBM, a true blue collar techie, hardcore techie. So it was the effort by two of us. So I think, and why should say I think, while we are going to be married for almost 50 years, we have worked together for 30 long years. I don't think we had any problem because it was a very complementary work that we were doing. What she knew the best, she did. What I knew the best, I did. So as co-founder, both of us could move together and created this deep tech company, which had a business angle to it. You know, you can do a lot of technology, but if it doesn't fly, what's good about it?
So you were speaking about um, doing this, cracking this with your wife, and now you just said your skill sets were complementary. So she did what she knew best, you did what you knew best. When you look back at those early days of bootstrapping a startup when India was not startup ready, we just liberalized. Um, what do you remember of those early challenges? What kind of regulatory challenges? How has India changed? Because you've been part of this um, long journey, and you've seen India literally go from a very regulated economy, and changes were just about setting in, to being this place which is very conducive for startups with a great digital infrastructure. In that long run, what have you seen changing? What are some of the remarkable changes that you must have seen?
Okay, I would like to share a few of the events. First part, if you're asking about bootstrap, so how did we manage that? Because it remained a bootstrap for a long time, for almost more than 10 years. You know, there is a word I'm just copying it, used in the Harvard Business Review by Professor John Mullins, saying that MapmyIndia was founded on a customer-funded business model. So funding is required. There is no doubt about it. Who brings in the money? A private VC or a PE firm or seed money, somebody brings it. As against that, the customer brings in the money. Customer is the earned money. And so you have no obligation to return him. Your obligation is to provide him the service. That's how we manage the entire bootstrap period, while making sure that we are building our platform and product.
But you were building a category. Wasn't consumer education something that you were daunted with? How did you go about that?
Okay. You know what? Those were the days, late 90s, or mid 90s to late 90s, early 2000, where many of these multinationals like Coca-Cola, like all these, I would say, mobile telephony, they had arrived in India. And for mobile telephony, each of their tower used to cost them 1 crore of rupees at that time. For them to understand what the demography is, what the geography is, what kind of buildings are there, all those things, what we in technical jargon we say vector, clutter, and height, because that's how the propagation of the waves go through to provide service to the mobile telephone users. Coca-Cola, another side, They needed to understand which all the shops carry the Coke bottle, which are the shops which do not. So now you see there was an urban-rural combo. Urban areas, certain mapping was required. Rural areas, certain mapping was required because the towers were going all over the country. Now, this is where the customer paid us. In the process, they didn't care for the maps. What they cared for was the end result. Where do I put my tower? Which are the shops where Coca-Cola is not being sold? And beautiful. It was I will say, people even tell us today, how could you build the intellectual property? Because we always said that the map remains our property, the output goes to you. And even today, the business that we are doing, it is the same answer. Now, on the other challenges, regulatory category. See, digital, or why digital? Making maps was against the policy of the government of India from British time. We did it. Like, courier companies, it was not allowed for them when they started because only the postal department can deliver. So when we started, we checked that out and we found out that yes, it's against the policy of the government of India. So we checked with a lot of government officials. They said, you do it, you're doing for the benefit of the country. Nobody will tell you anything. And that's what helped us, is a verbal kind of an understanding or assurances and all that. Of course, 2018, 17, 18 was a different time frame. I can talk about that separately, about the kind of regulatory hassles or the kind of issues we got involved in. But this is how we solved the problem at that point of time.
How do you think your personal academic journey has influenced your thinking around the issues of technology, of systems of scale?
See, the thing I learned at Bispilani, which I owe to them, I owe a lot to America also for what I am today or what I could achieve in my life today. Both these, one institute, the other as a country. Bispilani made me think, what you also use the word, become analytical minded. I never worked as an engineer per se, but I never had a problem, or even today I don't have a problem leading software engineers. Because if you understand what I may not be able to do the coding, that's fine, but I know what they have to produce, that I know. Becoming analytical minded is what I learned at BITS Pilani. The finance part of working in bank, where I was, in those 4 years, I was granting loans to the small farmers and small businesses. I think Indira Gandhi was the prime minister those days. And there was this big push towards that area. So understanding finance, understanding becoming analytical is what I have used in my entire career till date.
And you said you were working in the US corporate ecosystem. What parts of that experience, structure, discipline, culture, what has stayed with you when you built a company in India?
Okay, the 10, 11 long years of working in the United States, I can split it into two parts. Part one was I worked for a startup there. And that startup, of course, it closed down after 3 years. But that startup is what led to me starting my startup. What does it take to be a startup? The major learning came from business-wise was working in General Motors. There was, within General Motors, which was struggling in 80s, they figured out that they need to do business in a new way. So they opened up or invested around $2 billion to create a Saturn car. And that Saturn car, with 100 people, I was lucky to be one of them. And that gave a very good understanding of, they say, 360-degree view of from design to a customer, to design, to engineering, to manufacturing and servicing. So maybe there is a coincidence that that's how we got into an automotive business sector in MapmyIndia now.
Was there a defining moment in your education journey or your career in the US, where you realized that um, geospatial technology could become a core pillar of a country's development, and the gaps that convinced you that you could come here and build a mapping
Okay.
infrastructure?
First part, while being in the United States, some of my colleagues or friends used to talk about that in the entire life, you may come across one great idea. And if you are convinced about that great idea, go after it. Don't let it go away. Because I'm talking about those days again. So that's what made me feel that, and I was a little bit, what should I say, uh, not uneasy, but I wanted to do something on. And then coming back to India was totally emotional. Both me and my wife, we felt that, okay, we lived in the United States for 10 years. We have secured our life financially. And of course, with the social security of the US, which we don't care today, but it was a big security feeling at that point of time. Coming to India, we were not sure what to do. Accepting the memories, defining moment you're talking about, we used to travel in the US with those trip take maps on paper, and that will help us a lot in moving from any place to any place. And I started loving maps. So now from there to India, where the conviction was that every data will have a location component and we can build a great business. We, I, I'm happy that we didn't know that it will take us that long. Probably if I had known, I could have picked up or chosen some alternatives, because after all, we were energetic and we had lots of skills and ideas. But thank God we didn't know about it, and we went ahead, but never looked back. Whether earlier we thought 5 long years, it happened 10 years, it happened 15 years, but we never looked back and never regretted, and even today we don't regret.
So you went into building this with a 5-year outlook to say this will take us 5 years to build.
Yes, at least a reasonable level. 5 years we were earning revenue. It was not that it was zero, but still working in General Motors, what other great thing I found was build a product and a platform. Don't go after the services business, because services is you have 10 people, 1,000 people, 10,000, 1 lakh, and you keep doing it. Build a product and a platform, which I think MapmyIndia or me, we are proud of, that in the geospatial area, the country has an opportunity, because you see, if we are talking about digital autonomy, every space the foreign companies are dominating. It's very difficult to build your own platform in most of those areas. In geospatial, I remember when we started, till late, every India was dominated by the foreign companies in the geospatial area. What the Indians were doing, we were special. What all the Indians were doing services for them. Either outsource services or do the field data collection for them. That has dramatically changed today. But building the the platform and the product was the key. And we have been telling the government in many of our talks that, look, India has an option to Google Maps. India has an option to have two of the apps in the sphere of apps, in Map app. So please do not undermine it. Support us in the way you can. We have still sustained it because we have a conviction for it.
So good that you brought up Google Maps. Google Maps is free for most consumers. Is India really a monetizable mapping market after all?
Oh yeah. After all, how come we are earning 500 crore of revenue last year if it was not monetizable? Monetizing doesn't mean only through that app which consumers use for navigation. That's one. So maps are highly monetizable. Actually, as a matter of fact, Government of India believes that multiple lakh crores of business will happen in the geospatial area. I was attending the GeoSmart conference. So coming to Google Maps, which is a free app, Mappls app is also a free app. We can't do anything different. Direct monetizing, yes, that's possible. Google Maps is directly monetizing it through advertisements or advertisement on the maps or advertisements in many other ways. Mappls app can also do that. The only difference is because every phone comes preloaded with Google Maps, probably they are serving, I don't know, 200 million users because it comes preloaded. Mappls app doesn't come preloaded. That's our biggest grievance, if you may call it.
Are you lobbying the government to have it free-loaded in all Indian phones?
Yeah, yesterday only Bharat Sathi has happened. We have been lobbying for a while. We said, please, even as a matter of fact, in Economic Times, it came out where I said, if Government of India can give give money under PLI scheme to the handset manufacturers, why should Government of India tell them? And not just Mappls app. I'm saying any app that they preload at the behest of the Google, a competing app of Indian made should be also preloaded. So we are doing our part. When it will happen, I don't know. But without all that, if 40 million people our users are using Mappls app, whether through a phone or through browser, it's not a small number. And every day it's increasing. So that's the situation we are in today. So our maps go into for monetizing in the cars, 80% market share in the OEMs. Ours is preloaded. So we have found our own ways.
Today, the real revenue that you get is from enterprises, OEMs. Some of it might happen from the government.
Yes.
And then there are developers who are
Yes,
using it.
absolutely.
So what's that look like? I mean, I was just, this is based on our research, but you can sort of lay it out.
No. Yeah, I think you have done the right research. I will say 80% comes from the private sector. I'm giving you a broad number. 20% comes from the government business. Government business, if you see our 3 years back, it was like 5-10%.
That's growing really.
It is growing, and we are careful about it because we are a listed company and we have to ensure that we pick up only those businesses from the government where we have no issue of getting paid.
So there must be a flip side to all this, right? There will be customers who absolutely don't want to pay for maps no matter what you build. Do you have a sense of who these people are?
Yeah, there are people, but they are, some of them I can talk about without naming. They're making a mistake. How I tell you, what they think that, okay, open source maps are available, we can use that and then build our business. There are lots of them, companies who are doing it. But in the process, what is happening for them, they have a large chunk of people who are working in that area and they forget about their cost. Why today, whether it's Apple or Amazon or Flipkart or PhonePe or Paytm, why they use MapmyIndia or Mappls? For the simple reason, either sometime back, maybe 5-7 years back, they tried the same thing and they realized that neither they're getting that quality of data, nor the cost-wise it suffices. So there is a gradual movement of these people who are using open source maps, and we see every year few of the biggies are moving to MapmyIndia after trying out.
Is it your strategic choice not to be a default consumer app, or is the limitation more around, let's say, distribution, capital for sure, partnerships, or is it something else altogether? What?
No, it's totally distribution, nothing else. We love it. I think Mappls app in many ways is better than Google. But if the distribution, how do I increase my distribution? If I keep how much I advertise, it will not make sense. a certain increase in reaching out to the customers happened because of the distribution method. In our case, the distribution methods, when it comes to automotive OEM, we are doing that, and they are paying also because there are certain benefits they are getting. In case of consumer direct, it can only happen through preloading, or if we are lucky, more like what our Honorable Minister for IT, Mr. Vaishnav, did. He used it and put a tweet. That tweet impacted so much that around 5 million, not a small number, within a month, 5 million new users came on board.
Mr. Vaishnav is solving a distribution problem.
Yeah, he said it when we met, and he had called us, and he was trying to understand. He said, well, if nothing else, I can do your marketing.
I'm sure, because 5 million users, he does
without a zero cost.
Correct. So he does one tweet a month.
Yeah.
Good for Mappls, right? But there's something I really want to understand, and I understand this distribution problem, but when you said that Mappls is better than Google
In many ways.
What are some of these ways?
I can tell
How
you.
does the consumer benefit? Somebody like me who's driving, how do I benefit?
I'll tell you a few examples. We are talking here right in Noida, Film City. The entire Delhi NCR area is full of flyovers. You use Google, it doesn't tell you exactly whether you have to take the flyover or be below.
It has started doing that.
But still not fully functional. It is doing through some lines.
It is doing through some lines, and it says a small legend says
right.
take flyover.
And so I just said in some way we are better. You see Mappls.
You will clearly tell me, yes.
I will show you the 3D.
Okay.
I mean, when Google tried to copy that of ours, I wonder why didn't they copy it fully?
And I that's how I started. I mean, full disclosure, I started using the Mappls app simply because I realized that the flyover function was much better. I mean, the flyover function a year ago did not exist. So when I started using it, I realized that it is useful for me to understand. Sometimes you take a flyover and you realize, especially on the ring road in Delhi, that you're stuck in a much worse jam than you should.
And let me extend that. It's not just a flyover. It is any fork. Flyovers may be X numbers, but I'm talking about any fork.
Correct. Exactly, you're right. Because I've had an experience of that. When you're traveling to, let's say, Jaipur on this new highway, you sort of have to get off the highway, do a sort of bend and then get on back again, after paying your toll. And those are some things that you're right. It's much clearer, much more clearer. It's as it through the corner of your eye, you don't have to guess. And yes, spatially, that's much better.
The second interesting thing you'll find is the alert. See, all these have come from our automotive OEM's desire that what can MapmyIndia do for safety? Accidents are taking place in such a large number.
From you, driver feedback, and from the OEM feedback.
So these are the requests that come. So we said, what do we do? They didn't tell us do this. This was our thinking that if we do this, it will help reduction in accidents. The speed breakers, the potholes, the traffic lights. When you think of all those, the alerts come. It doesn't come in Google. Now, alerts, you can keep it muted also. It will do a different ping. Or it can just tell you that there is a speed breaker 100 meters ahead. So, like this, I can keep telling you, if my product manager was there, he will make out a list of 10, 20 different.
We'd love for our audiences to have that list, because I know some of these things they are not self-evident.
Right, they are not.
They're not self-evident, but they really help. And you're right, it's very interesting how OEMs have sort of given you feedback, and that has made it a very driver-friendly product. Because I drive a lot myself, I understand that. It's a very, very driver-friendly product, and it's interesting how OEMs have been part of that journey. We're talking about Google and competition and your product. What is your real moat? Is it your data set? Is it your tech stack? Is it government's trust? Is it trust of the consumers? Or is it just, um, is it your India first orientation? Or is it simply that you're the only viable non-Google option to maps?
Well, maps are also taking different forms and factors. Maps are also used by users, whether government or automotive or corporate or whoever, are used for different use cases. Now, fundamentally, what we have done is we said here is started with 2D maps, enhanced it to a 3D map, and building on top of that now what we also call the digital twin. So that's the map part of it. When you think of all these different types of maps, there has to be a platform that can serve it. I'm trying to say it in a very simple English language. So that platform, typically it consists of things like how do you search? In the search, we have brought in the Mappls pin concept and even included now DigiPin of the government of India. Either you search it with a 6-character Mappls pin or a 10-character DigiPin, or by actually typing the address. Like I came to your place, you have this long address. Typing all that address to come to a place, I just use my Mappls pin with 6 characters, period. I arrived here. And the moment I type that 6 character in the search bar, automatically shows your complete address. So because people do rightly say that 6 characters don't mean anything to me. How can I remember? I say you don't have to remember. Whoever is asking you to come to your place, he will send you a Mappls pin. And the moment he sends you the Mappls pin, you get to know the address automatically. Now, this can't be replicated that easily by Google also. Because Google also has a Google pin, or Postal Department also has a 10-character DigiPin. But when that pin is related to the physical address, which I call it as postal address, then that's where the beauty lies. And that didn't happen overnight, the postal address. Like my office address is 235 Okla, phase 3, blah, blah, blah. That's what the work started in 97, collecting the address. Believe me.
So each address is a separate 6-character pin.
No, each address has a 6-character.
Each address is.
So first I had to collect the address. It was back in 97, 98. I started that with my team of people on the road. It started in Mumbai. I covered whatever Mumbai city was at that point of time. It's become much bigger. Covered every building and jotted down their address, the way the postal address is. Now that address is accumulated into millions and millions across the country. The more in urban, less in rural. So that's a very powerful strength that we have, which is a core data. Mm-hmm. On that core data is plugged into a platform which does a lot of things, including the search. What is the algorithm? We are talking about AI now. AI is helping also in the search, how you think and things like that. I'm hungry. Or you need I should show him some restaurant or food place. The routing. What is the shortest time or the shortest distance? Which routes are there? I will select depending upon my way of driving. Traffic. All these platforms, the data is ingested into. Now that's the entire tech stack which we have been building since 2004 in step by step. And every day, like AI element has gotten into it 2 years back. Then none of these are sold. What is sold is the product on top of that. And that's what gets us the revenue. Mappls app is a product. Of course, it's free, but it can give me revenue, as I was talking about, through advertisements or whatever.
You said you moved from 2D to 3D to digital twins. For our audiences, what is digital twins and what's the next frontier for mapping, especially in India?
Like in 95, we visualized what the maps should have. Nobody told us. But when we visualized that these mobile telephony and these kinds of FMCG companies, this is the kind of map that's required. Today, what we are visualizing, autonomous driving, people are talking about. So if autonomous driving might happen inside the airport first, maybe in the Yamuna Expressway first, it might not be, but at least automotive is moving in that direction. So the kind of maps required for that might require what we call it as autonomous. ADAS is a jargon that's used. So I'll use the word jargon only, ADAS. Now, ADAS requirement would be that it's already there. ADAS 2 is there in many cars. So lane marking.
Correct.
Now, if there is a physical lane marking in the city, that's great. That we can capture.
But what happens when there isn't?
When there isn't, then we create that.
So it's a virtual lane marking.
It's a virtual lane. So we mentioned that it's a virtual lane marking versus a real lane marking. Now
just to keep the drivers on straight
on the straight. So I give you just one example from an ADAS angle. Digital twin, you asked. Now this ADAS related map I was telling you can also come through the digital twin.
So is that part of your stack which is your strongest play in terms of assisted driving or ADAS?
Yes, that's yes, absolutely true. That's one of the big strengths to serving the needs of the automotive OEMs.
The other thing I heard was DigiPin, right? Apart from the Mappls Pin, you said that I can use DigiPin, which is fundamentally, as I understand, your partnership with India Post, where somebody on Mappls can use the postal pin.
Anybody can use it.
Anybody, if you know the
code,
you can connect. You can just put the postal pin, and it sort of gives them a digital address.
No, it doesn't. What it does is it gives the location, the digital location, the lat long. Let's say 4 meter by 4 meter rectangle, grid 3.8 meter by 3.8 meter, and says it's right there.
All right.
Mappls Pin also says it's right there. But supposing it was for your gate of the building, both will say the same thing. And the partnership again with Postal is very interesting. In both the cases, we say the address is 235 Okhla Phase 3 or blah, blah, blah. So now, how we are using it. See, there's a technology that does something. Department of Post, with the help of, I don't know, Hyderabad, wherever, they created that algorithm software, which anybody can log in and try to get the DigiPin. They use the MapmyIndia's maps as a base layer. Because if there's a DigiPin, somebody types the DigiPin, they have to show it on the map, which anybody can show. Where we find it very useful, that particularly in the unstructured addresses in smaller towns or cities, or totally unstructured rural areas, Mappls Pin goes for a building, but not like an open land. But DigiPin can be there for anything. It's a grid. So we are nicely using the combination of the two. We are saying wherever Mappls Pin can support, use it because you have some other advantages. Otherwise, the rest of the country use the DigiPin.
That brings me to my next question, which is, how are you solving for mapping the less visible parts of this country? Rural roads, informal settlements, smaller towns where, the road network is just evolving and developing. What are some of those approaches? Like, do you still run survey cars? Do you have on-ground teams which refresh our maps? Or is that completely been taken over by user input and satellite technology, and that those models of survey and on-ground boots on street have been made redundant?
Actually, it's a combination of all of them. I can't say it's one or two or three or four. But what we do, we are in a business where there's an IoT element of our business, where our employees are located across the country, absolutely spread out. So while satellite imagery is primarily used to see where the habitation is, or even the smaller roads that is coming up, or a bridge that has happened, then if there's any confusion, so we try to check it out also. That is, after we put it on the map, do we see if any vehicle has moved there or not? Because we get the IoT probe data, the GPS data. If I made the road, I'm giving a very example of how we validate. For a year, nothing has happened on that road. Quite possible that satellite imagery gave me a wrong. We interpreted it wrongly. It might be some water.
It might not be a road.
It might not be.
It might not be a public road.
Or even, right, where any vehicle can go.
Correct. It might be an alley.
It might be an alley or pathway or
alley or pathway in somebody's compound.
Right, exactly.
What you believe could be your explosion point, like that one product category or technology shift that could sort of take MapmyIndia or Mappls 100x very quickly? I mean, other than the minister tweeting, which I realize is clearly a interesting.
I wish if ministers tweeting or preloading on the mobile phone happens, that can be one big momentum that it can throw. Revenue from advertisements can be very large. And that will happen the more the users are, advertisement flows. So that's one. Second is we are taking our platform and product globally. So that's how the brand name is Mappls now more than MapmyIndia. So this global entry, which we started doing this financial year, we look at it as the next 5 years, good possibility of taking us forward, because our platform is country agnostic. The maps for those countries are required, and that there are ways to collect, have those maps with either a local partnership or other ways, like Google has it. Okay. So the big thing that can happen also within the country, if I look at the logistics area, think of where we are quite strongly present. If I may say that the logistics cost in India is, I understand that it's 4-5% more than the world's developed countries' logistics cost. So the kind of things we are doing in that space can, through location and the location intelligence combined, like we recently also signed up a very good MOU with results in business with Zoho.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about that integration. How did that come about, and what's the thought behind that?
See, it came because of Minister's tweet on Zoho first, and then his tweet on us.
So the minister is playing matchmaker now.
So you could. So I think that opened up Vemlu's eyes. It opened up our eyes. What are we doing on this location intelligence? You have a CRM. Why not integrate our addresses with the CRM and opened up another interesting option.
Very interesting how you got together. But seriously, on a more serious note, now that you've evaluated the businesses and now that you've done one level of integration, where do you see that going?
Which one? The Zoho?
So integration, and
it's not just going to be for CRM. There are so many other opportunities. They have their products.
Right.
WhatsApp, when you send a location, whose maps it uses? Google.
It gives me an option to go to my Apple Map or Google Map.
Something. But general default is Google. So First is even WhatsApp should think 10 times that they can give an option of MapmyIndia's, right? But in case of Zoho, if their products, at least we hope that will give Mappls a preference or what priority or whatever. Every customer, even if we started working in a small way, but then both the parties have start realizing that there's so much in common and we can do more and more and more.
Let's say you had to bet, and this is a hypothetical, but bear with me. If you had to bet your entire network on one mapping segment in India over the next decade, all in on one mapping segment, what would it be? Consumer navigation, automotive, enterprise or SaaS models, logistics, government technology, or something else? You can choose, and it would be interesting to hear why are you betting hard on this segment.
See, my current net worth doesn't support the consumer, how much it is, whatever it is. I think if I have to get into consumer, then probably I should think in terms of those billions of dollars to put in and go head on with Mr. Google. There's nobody else. So it remains hypothetical.
Right.
But it can be a good complementary thing for us to continue because it's also our flagship product. That looking at Mappls app is how BMW or PhonePe or anybody gets excited. These guys have deep. After all, the app doesn't happen just like that. Why nobody else has been able to make it? I mean, making app is pervasive in India. I mean, millions of apps are made. Is it that we are special? No, it's a deep tech underlying it. I will say whether it is government or enterprise, private sector enterprise, automotive, whoever, we have the DNA for B2B or B2B2C. That's where our focus is. I don't think that will change or that should change. I will not say that will not change because I may not be guiding it forever. The consumer side looks very interesting and exciting to many folks in the company. If they find out that more of those tweets can help, probably they might go. It's only a matter of how to get that, let's say from 40 million, how to go to reach 100 million. I guess once we reach something of that number, probably we may not need billions of dollars. So it might be an interesting bet. But as a company whose DNA is that should do it within MapmyIndia, not the core business which is there today.
I'm coming back to you and your leadership philosophy, your legacy. You've built this company for 3 decades without chasing valuations or hype cycles. What leadership philosophy guides this kind of a scale?
Very simple. It's not complicated. Take care of your people who work with you. When I say take care, it's simple. You give them, when I started and the folks who are still working, there was a generation gap. Practically, molded, trained, all those fresh from the college guys, and many of them have become all the top leadership are them only. Those who deserved it have. What I noticed that what worked for us was a very simple philosophy. Give them due respect. Understand what their capabilities are and expect that much only. Do not give them stress. Just because somebody has become a vice president in a role and he has been there with you all these difficult or easy years and he's not able to give you a result which you want, figure out some other ways rather than troubling him. So that is how you start respecting and give it, is what I feel has been my leadership.
You've said India must build its own digital infrastructure. You've said this a couple of times in a couple of ways today. What does success look like, not for you personally and not just for MapmyIndia, but for India? What does digital success look like to you?
See, digital success is a global thing There are lots of things involved, even whether you think of Aadhaar or you think of UPI.
Sure, lots of success stories in India
are there, and country, government, people behind it, they have done a great job. As I said before, also in the geospatial space, it was like a British colony in India, which was ruling the geospatial market in India, and we were subservient to them. I'm talking about till 4 years back. I'm not talking about history. That is changing, and today, India has such bright engineers. I'm not talking about MapmyIndia, who can create all. These youngsters are even throwing satellite in the space. The drone technology they have captured, the mobile data capturing they have captured, the kind of apps they can make. I will say this area can be totally, and I'll address the GPS thing also, which is in the news these days. India can be totally Atmanirbhar, will help India achieve its Bharat Viksit goal, and will never have to worry about whether any of the foreign companies in this space, whether they are providing services or they are not. I'm not anti foreign companies. I believe in competition. I believe in working with them. All that true. But we must be self-reliant. Coming to that GPS, you didn't ask the spoofing and all that. That's a pretty serious work. I remember the Kargil War, how the GPS was shut down, and how it had impacted America. Today, if GPS is shut down, imagine what will happen to you and me in our normal life. We are so dependent on the use of GPS through navigation or otherwise. Navik, which is the answer to GPS, we partnered with ISRO. We have developed our application on Navik, just like it works on GPS. It's a matter of Navik chipset has to be part of the mobile phone. Now, why that is not happening remains totally, it's a black box to me.
Okay, this next segment is going to be, well, we believe it's fun. It's ubiquitously called the rapid fire. We're not expecting really rapid answers, at least I'm not. But first thing that comes to your mind, let me put it that way, right? So a bunch of questions that I'll ask you, and just say the first thing that comes to your mind. One word to describe India's mapping market.
I will include geospatial also into this. It's a very, very large market. 1 lakh crore, I can safely say.
Google Maps, competitor or catalyst?
For us, they're competitor, but overall for the country, it is a catalyst.
Offline or online, what really defines India?
Is this the online maps?
One regulation or government move that changed your trajectory?
The February 2021, the regulation that came in. I don't, although it's rapid fire, but let me add few things. It was the month of December 2020 when I could get the attention of our Prime Minister. And that was a big change in MapmyIndia's history, in the history of entire geospatial industry, where over a period of 15 minutes, I could explain to him that what's happening in the geospatial industry, the kind of trauma that the geospatial companies are facing. And he understood. He used the word, oh, this is the British thing that they have left behind. I need to take care of it, and I'll do it in few months. So in 21 February, the rules, entire policies were thrown in the waste paper basket by the government. And in December, we could also go ahead with our IPO.
When you look back and when you look at today's engineers and entrepreneurs, what you sort of tell them, what do they now have that you didn't? And what are some of the things you have that they now can't envisage?
Well, in general, today's entrepreneurs are, what should I say, they have become very, they don't have the patience, and they want results right away. So to to them, I'll tell such of them that you figure out what you want to achieve in your life. Do you want to build a company business and then a company, and you want to take it forward, or are you trying to become just a serial entrepreneur, that you build something and somebody will acquire you and you sold it, you made...
It's fashionable to say 3x entrepreneur.
Right. So you decide, and then accordingly, I'm not saying one is better over the other.
After 30 years of building your own company, making maps, what's keeping you excited today?
It has been the passion. Body starts decaying, but mental agility remains if you are engaged in something. For me, making maps even today is a passion. I would like to see that passion continue. However, the next generation has to take care of taking the business forward, which I'm fully in sync with. But for me, I would not like it to leave mapping as such.
On that note, Mr. Verma, thank you so much for joining us on CXO Connect today and for sharing your vision, your journey, and your insights with our audience. And to everyone listening in, thank you for being with us. We'll be back soon with another conversation with a leader that's shaping India's digital future. Thank you.
Thank you.